What about the Democratic Party?
Well, it has tended to indulge anti-Semitism and indulge hostility to Israel. As part of the general Marxist orientation toward envy, which is the economics of envy derived from the economics of scarcity and zero-sum economics and climate change economics. It's all economics of scarcity and envy. And the economics of envy always tends to focus on Jews who are incredibly accomplished and successful in the United States and around the world.
Well, some are, but percentage are.
What?
A percentage are, but not.
Percentage, Jews are overwhelmingly outperform all other groups in the world economy. Overwhelmingly. It's not a percentage are the Jews in general, wherever they are, they outperform. And
Asians do well.
IQs are 37% higher than other white IQs. They're and they have half the Nobel Prizes that mean anything, and they really are the leading figure in the world capitalism, and because of that, Marxist-oriented groups that pursue the economics of envy tend to hate Jews, and they envy being transmogrified into resentment and opposition to Israel and
of course Marxists
and the amazing thing is it's also a disease of certain classes of intellectuals who may also suffer from envy. I'm not sure, but anyway, there is an intellectual class in the American Academy that somehow regards.
You don't think it's only Israel that they're opposed to?
Well, they resent. Many of them resent Asian success too. I mean, Asians have IQs that are only 24% higher than the average white American.
By Asians, you mean Oriental or Indian?
I think this is Chinese. I think these are Chinese that I'm talking about. Jews are 37% higher IQs, and outperform in universities and everywhere else, and in enterprise. And 5 of the richest people in the world are Jews. 5 of the top 10, and it's just. The economics of envy, the opposition to capitalism manifests itself often in resentment toward Jewish success, and which is ascribed to some nefarious, conspiratorial behavior rather than to excellence and achievement and intellect and creativity, which is actually the source of Jewish preeminence and Israel's preeminence. Among all the countries in the world, 0.02% of the population, they're lead in all the major technologies. They're critical to Silicon Valley. Without Mellanox in Migdal HiMac, the Nvidia couldn't integrate all these data centers that currently are projected to entail some $5 trillion of spending on data centers in the next few years. It's the seminal significance of Jewish genius remains dominant in the world economy. And it's true that Indians and Chinese, who are 1,000 times more numerous, also play a preeminent role. And as Thomas Sowell has recounted in detail, the overseas Chinese have suffered pogroms all over Asia that have been comparable to what Jews have experienced, not in proportion to the number of people, but the similar numbers. So the evil of envy is an affliction of human beings throughout all history, and capitalism has unleashed an economy which is not zero-sum, and a lot of people haven't quite yet come to terms with the superabundance that Jewish genius has unleashed on the world, and we're all dependent on it. I wrote the introduction to a book by Gail Pooley and Marion Tupy called Superabundance, and measured by time prices, the number of hours of time it takes to earn the money to purchase key goods and services. Prices have been plummeting for the last 100 years, and despite or because of a 69% increase in population during that period. Well, population has increased 69%. The prices of all the major commodities that support our lives have plummeted 69% or so, roughly. I think 70% and 70%. And Jews have really been crucial to this whole transformation. I mean, you just but Asians also, and a lot of people resent this phenomenon, and not because they don't benefit from it, but because they measure their success not in comparison to what their grandparents experienced, but they measure their success against other people they see, and Elon Musk has become the honorary Jew now. He's attracting the same kind of resentment and acrimony that Jews attach. Bezos used to be, and Zuckerberg and all these people who have made these vast contributions to the transformation of our economies are resented by the same economics of envy that really was invented by Marx. So the Jews really invented the theory. So
based on Judaism.
Right, based on Judaism.
Right, it wasn't, yeah. There were no Christians at the time that the Old Testament was written.
Right.
And by the way, just for the record, Karl Marx and Engel were both atheists, right? They may have come from families, but they weren't doing anything.
They definitely were atheists. Marx and Engels were both atheists. Yeah.
So people who like to attribute communism as a Jewish conspiracy.
Yeah. But they were also materialists, and this is really crucial. Materialists believe that material scarcity afflicts us, and people who understand that we're creative in the image of our Creator understand the infinite possibilities of human life, and which Israel really is epitomized. Since about 1980, it had a tremendous emergence, building, increasing agricultural production 16-fold and manufacturing 50-fold. All the numbers are expounded in the Israel test. But yeah, my book, The Israel Test. But then in 1985, it all reached some kind of inflationary, the government and the Histadrut and the unions so controlled Israel that it reached a crisis, and they had to create a joint government, and that's when Netanyahu began to shape financial and economic policy and turn Israel toward capitalism. And within 35 years, Israel really became perhaps, certainly per capita, the most successful capitalist country in the world.
Is that right? Relative to Singapore?
Well, Singapore is is one city, but Singapore is not as important or as creative or as productive as Israel is. It's a superb. It's a banking center, and it's rich and successful and creative, but it's not comparable to in Israel that sustains all of Silicon Valley. It's really, again, this is a theme of I've been writing about microchips and technology most of my life, and Silicon Valley really subsists on Israeli genius to a great extent.
And when you say that, you mean because the Israelis who are working in Silicon Valley?
No, they're working in Israel, and Silicon Valley companies bought laboratories and established factories and purchased companies all over Israel, and there's an unseen source of the genius of Silicon Valley in the Silicon Desert in Israel, and the first really major Intel fab was in Kiryat Gat. Intel was the key company in the American semiconductor industry, and most of its profits in its first 10 years came from Dov Froman, an Israeli who invented the non-volatile memory that made Intel prosper, and then Intel went on and under Gordon Moore and Noyce and ultimately Andy Grove became the top American technology company. Now Nvidia has displaced it to a great extent, and Nvidia has the core of all its communications technology. It's NVLink and Spectrum technologies that allow it to integrate these millions of graphics processor units and make them all function as a single computer that can produce artificial intelligence around the world in these data centers. All that all the communications technology, or the core of it, came from a purchase of Mellanox, an Israeli company started by Eyal Waldman back in Israel, Waldman lost his daughter and son-in-law in October 7th. It really was terrible. But Waldman sold Mellanox to Nvidia, and Nvidia incorporated this as Jensen Huang of Nvidia said. When we bought Mellanox had a bigger footprint in the data centers of the world than Nvidia did. But IBM, Google, all these leading American companies have Israeli factories, and